I actually don't think you heard the music. Maybe you did through my headphones. Hold on just 1 second. I think I did this all wrong. I think I wired my sound incorrectly. What a way to start the year. Hold on a second. Let's start that over. One moment. Oh shoot. Oh, that's what's going on. So, no sounds for today, I'm afraid. Oh man, what a sad way to start 2018. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 125 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley and we're going to be hacking on Firefox stuff, and usually I play like a little intro music thing, but just over the weekend I upgraded my operating system and some of the audio stuff I use something called Soundflower to route audio around on the machine whenever I'm streaming, and it appears to not be working, or not. I might need to upgrade it. I'm not entirely certain, but it's not available as an output device, and so the sounds are not going to be working. Sad, sad, sad. But hello, how are you? Welcome to this episode, and I hope if I hope if you were on holidays, you had a good holiday, and if you're back, welcome back. I had a beard at one time. It's gone now. If you're interested in seeing my beard at full volume, let's see here. My beard was featured in an episode of The Joy of Profiling, which aired last Friday, I think, or was made available last Friday. If you want to see my beard in full relief, here is a link, and I will put that in the agenda. So, beard video, if you're interested in seeing my beard. Hey, so here's the agenda. Today is January 10th. It's episode 125. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. Just like how I wanted sound to work, it might not work. Things might just break, and that's okay. This is not a pre-scripted or pre-planned stream beyond kind of things I know I want to do. I don't have like pre-written solutions for the things I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be making it up as I go. So, bear with me and keep that in mind, because I'm going to fumble, I'm going to make mistakes, and that's what it's all about. So this agenda that we're looking at is actually something that you can have in front of yourself, because these links are sometimes useful to click on, and you can't do that through a video. So if you're watching this on Air Mozilla, scroll down to the additional links section, because that's where the links are. If you're watching this on YouTube, check the video description. It's down below. I think people on YouTube tend to do that. They like point to where things are. My computer is here. Here's a bunch of text, and the agenda and stuff is down below. Go down there. And if you're watching this on Twitch, I'm about to drop this, the link to this new Evernote. How do I do this? I have the link to the agenda, and I'm going to put it in the Twitch chat right now. Poof, there it is. And if you're watching this on Facebook, it's in a pinned comment down below this video. I don't know if Facebook people gesture to links and things, but there they go. Along with the agenda, there's also a link to rate the episode and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the episode. I'm going to put a link to that in Twitch chat as well. And it's in all of the same places I just mentioned where the agenda is. So that's the agenda. I said Happy New Year. I wanted to give a plug to the episode guide. There is an episode guide. It is completely community, viewer contributed to, viewer run, viewer maintained. If you're interested in contributing to the episode guide, for which there are quite a few episodes in here, but not all of them, feel free to send pull requests to the repository where the episode guides are. If you're not sure what that means, check the guide for creating pull requests, because I will accept them. If you look at the repository, a lot of the people writing these, things are viewers just like you. So people would write stuff and then I'll just merge them. I'm not doing anything here. I'm just merging. I think I did this one on my phone while walking home. I saw this pull request come in, and I was like, oh, I'm walking home. I have a second here. Boop, merge. So, send stuff my way if you've got stuff for the episode guide. So, quick is everything working? One of the things that I heard from one of my previous, like, some of the feedback I've gotten is maybe it's because of the new microphone, maybe it's because of OBS. I think I upgraded OBS recently, something along those lines. Or maybe it's because of the video trimming I do on YouTube. I'm not sure. The audio is sometimes just a little out of sync. So I'm gonna do a quick test for myself. I'm gonna clap my hands to see how much of a delay there is. All right, so later I'm gonna go back and look at this video and try and calibrate. Maybe I can convince OBS to change how the audio and video are aligned, or maybe I need to tell YouTube to do that. I'm not entirely certain. But I think I saw that effect in the Joy of Profiling last week as well. So maybe I just need to upgrade my stuff. What else do I want to do before we get started? I'm going to pause crash plan. I'm also, am I on the Ethernet? Yes, I'm going to turn off Wi-Fi and make sure I'm just using Ethernet. Yay, macOS is doing the right thing. I didn't drop any frames. That's good. I normally do all of those things before the stream starts, but as you can tell, I'm a little underprepared, more than usual. Stuff's not working. I'm not going to have sounds. I'm going to have to make the sounds with my mouth. Yeah, yeah, fwah, fwah, fwah. And, oh, yeah. These are the sounds I normally play with my tablet here, but they're not going to work today. And you'll have to bear with me as well. I'll stop apologizing in a second, but I'm probably not going to be able to go as long as normal. My throat's a little scratchy, and I haven't been doing this for a couple of weeks, so, you know, I'm probably not, my stamina is probably not up to par just yet. I mean, I need to stretch myself again. So, what are we doing today? I want to give you an update on the patches that I feel like we've been working on for weeks and weeks and weeks. At least 5 episodes, maybe longer. If we look at the episode guide, when did I start working on it? Probably, where is it? Episode 11. Yeah, I started mentioning it in episode 111. Here we are in episode 125. So that's a lot of time, like multiple months. This patch is all about making the tab browser warming API work without setting the dock shell to be active. And these landed a couple of weeks back, and then they bounced because people were seeing tab spinners all over the place. I found out what the problems were. I re-landed them. These have now been in the tree for a couple of days, and I think they're going to stick. There is still a problem. Excuse me. Excuse me again. 3 in a row. Oh, it's a hat trick. That's what we call it in Canada. Hat trick. So it's not perfect. The patches have landed, but if you enable tab warming, well, I can actually show you an example of tab warming making an impact. Or I think I can. Let me see here. If you're in Nightly right now, there is a preference to turn on tab warming. It's this one here. Browser tabs remote warm-up enabled. Flip this at your own risk, at your own peril. Like no warranty. It's not on by default for a reason because it's still a little bit busted. But the idea is whenever I hover a tab, a bunch of the painting of the page occurs in the background. So that's happening without me having clicked yet, and then when I click, it's like a bunch of work has already occurred, so it kind of preempts the rendering of the page. It's like predictive, or it's an improvement on perceived performance as opposed to like actual performance. The user should, in some cases, experience faster tab switching. So I think I have an example of like this having an impact. Let's see here. There was a, let me see if I can, there was actually a really interesting example. If I open up a private window, I think I'm gonna do this off screen for a second, make sure I don't get the wrong thing. Okay, so we have this like wavy SVG that is like, it's animating, and it's really high res. It's trying to animate at 60 FPS, and it's actually kind of expensive to paint. And if I open a new tab and send it to, I don't know, Mozilla.org, let me do first. I'm going to disable tab warming so you can see what it's like without tab warming. So tab warming is disabled. It was disabled before, but I've made sure it is still disabled. This is with tab warming disabled. I want you to hear my mouse click and see the tab switch so you can kind of get a sense of the lag. So I'm switching back to that SVG. Now, hopefully the video and the audio are still mostly in sync, or else this demonstration is not going to make sense. But here, listen to the mouse click and then watch the tab switch. So there's like a little bit of a delay there. It's not very long, but you can feel it. It's like click, then switch, click, then switch. And again, click, and then switch. So now I'm going to turn on tab warming. So warming is now enabled. So when I hover this tab, the actual painting of that SVG should occur with the hover. So I gotta time this right. Ready? Hover. Wait. Hang on. Hover and click. I don't know if you heard that. I'm gonna try it again. Hover. Click. So that is actually quite a bit smoother. It switches. That one was a bad one. This one's a good one. Like it's all kind of timing based, based on like how long you're hovering for and whether or not you've been warming up other tabs. But in some cases, I think this should reduce the number of tab switches that kind of have that lag between switches. So I thought that was kind of neat, and that that stuff has landed. So hang on, I gotta blow my nose. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think maybe I'm either getting a cold and I shouldn't be in the office, or there's dust in this room. It's bothering me. 1 second. This is going to be a high-res nose blow with this new microphone. I'm sorry. Hang on. Wow. Really sorry. Sorry you had to hear that. It's getting a bit real here, people. Apologies. Okay, so there is one other issue before we can turn this on by default. And that's this bug that was filed where if you open, I've got tab warming enabled now. If I click on that, here's the bug. If I click on something that causes a tab to be open from content, so for example, if I click on the activity link here and in Bugzilla, this is what happens. I get an infinite perma spinner, and that's bad. We don't want that. And I actually found the solution to this. This was duplicated to the bug where I have patches for this, and I'm gonna try and land these. Like, that's the first thing I want to do. And the patches work. What's going on is whenever I'm gonna spend like 1 minute trying to explain how this works or how these fix things. Actually, if you're curious, what I would recommend you do is actually read the notes for the bug. So if you look at the this here, let me pump up the font. Bug 1423208, permanent tab switch spinners when opening some links to the new tab with tab warming enabled. Check out the notes, because the notes is like, read everything under, I see what's happening, so that you kind of get a sense of what's going on. That will, I hope, help explain. But essentially, we're going to be deferring the command to render layers until a dock shell blocker has gone away. And I've gotten a patch, or I've gotten R+ to do that. I just have 2 issues to clean up, and then I'm going to do that. So I'm going to pull these patches down. I guess we don't need Wacky Mooring DJ anymore. I'm also going to pump up the font so you can see things clear, and then get all the sizes working just right. There you go. What did I want to do? Do I have any stuff on the tree that I need to commit? No. Okay. I want to update to these patches. I think I have them in my tree. What was it? BBF37. I'm going to try and update, HG update to that. And then get rid of that line. I don't need it. There's probably an easier way of doing that, certainly. And see where I am in the tree here. I think I am just off of, I'm right here. So that's good. And the feedback I got was nothing major. Just I need to add a comment and initialize a new member variable that I added and failed to initialize. So I need to do that. So I'm going to do that now. So the member variable that I added is a member variable called mPendingLayerObserverEpoch. And that is of type uint64t. It's after pending render layers received message. So I have to put it after that variable is initialized and do it right here. So I'm going to add our count here of epoch to 0. Done. Good eyes, Nika. And then the other comment here is to actually add a comment explaining the mPending doc shell blockers field. I think that now that there are more things blocked by this, should have more clear documentation. Well, shoot, because I think Nika originally added this stuff. So I have to explain it. Explain the mPending doc shell blockers field and how it interacts with other pending fields. Okay, fine, I think I can do that. So there are certain things that we can only do after what are doc shell blockers? Pending doc shell blockers. Add when we remove a pending doc shell blocker, when we add a pending doc shell blocker. What? We provide window common. We have to wait for the response. Get back. Okay. There are certain things that we can do in certain circumstances. A doc shell might be in a state where it is blocked, and we should not attempt to change its active state or the underlying pres shell state until the doc shell becomes unblocked. It is possible, however, for the parent process to send commands to change those states. Change those states while the doc shell is blocked. We store those states temporarily and only apply them once the doc shell is no longer blocked. We store those states temporarily as pending and only apply them once the doc shell is no longer blocked. Done. Comment added. Good eye. Thanks. Done. Thanks. All right. Pending doc shell. When mPending doc shell blockers is greater than 0, the doc shell is blocked, and once it reaches 0, it is no longer blocked. Okay, done. I think we can land these. So I'm going to commit that change using hgamend. I'm going to push the whole thing up for review again. In certain circumstances, in some, so it might be a state where it is blocked. I'm going to say in some circumstances instead, hgamend. All right, push to review. Hope your 2017 to 2018 transition went well. Mine did. Fun fact, the theme for The Joy of Coding, which was written by my good friend and bandmate, Barn Costello, is actually referencing a song by a Canadian band called Sloan. And that song is called, I think, She Means What She Says. She Says What She Means. She Says What She Means is the name of the song. So if you're curious about where that hook comes from, the ba-ba-na-ba-ba, it's referencing, it is, we're ripping off Sloan is what we're doing. So there you go, a little inside baseball there. So added our comment. And we should see also that tabchild.cpp, the change there is that we added the initialization to 0. Now let's make sure that this builds. It'd be super embarrassing if for some reason that didn't build. I'm pretty sure it will. I don't see anything here that wouldn't. But I'm just going to double check. Meanwhile, while that's building, I want to draw your attention to the next bug I want to work on. So we're going to land this. Address comments and going to land this. Another thing I'm working on is updating our form history backend to use a module called sqlite.jsm, which, I mean, our form history stuff always used an SQLite database, but it historically used a synchronous mechanism to communicate with it, at least in certain circumstances, like whenever we're creating the database or connecting to the database, all of that occurred synchronously. A lot of the actual database operations were asynchronous, but the actual creation of the database and connection of the database were synchronous. And so the idea was, oh, well, let's switch it all over to use the purely asynchronous SQLite.jsm for form history. And oh shoot, that's the wrong bug. I'm sorry, I connected you to the wrong bug. It's this one, 888784. So I'm going to actually replace that entry in the agenda with this. Whoop. And I'm going to change the link. What is going on here? Come on. Linkify. There we go. And the notes should still work. Let's just double check. Yeah. Okay. And that landed yesterday to great success, but it bounced because of some Android failures, and I wanted to figure out what those Android failures were. So I pushed some stuff to try recently with some logging, and I want to find out what's going on. Let's see what we got. Still getting failures, which really blows, because I thought at least one of them I had fixed, this RC1 failure. So let's look at that one first. It's a null pointer exception. Something about SQLite shutdown. And that warm-up bug. I'm going to disable warming for now and reopen this. So, let's see here. Form history. I thought this was all having to do with the form history shutdown stuff. That's what I assumed. Form history shutdown. SQLite.jsm. Disk I/O error occurs. And then it's finished. Too late to register. Complete search service shutting down. Closing form history database. Done closing form history database. And then where does the failure occur here? Up here. At time 17:34:28, and then close 28:29, we try closing the form history database. So up here, we catch an exception. And the exception is what? Null pointer exception. Here, browser is null. I don't know if that is related. Test form history. I guess I should probably try and understand more about what this test does. Fails to load module. Test start form history here. The test device screen will be powered on. And then null pointer exception when attempting to run and invoke a native method when we run. Test form history on line 52, whatever line 52 of test form history.java is. Let's see if we can find it. Line 52 is this one. We're attempting to call something on an M asserter, but M asserter is null? What is M asserter? Native method 52. No longer over to sure. What is M asserter? Or could it be that I'm off by a line because of pre-processing, or off by any number of lines? See, this kills me. Pardon me again. I got this room. What is up with this room? Why is my nose so runny? So I really don't know where I am hitting my null pointer exception. The stack says line 52. And line 52, well, I guess expected URI and insert URI, I guess both of these could be, let's see here, insert form history URI. I guess these could be null somehow, insert URI. I don't know how any of these tests work. For Newman, test for null value checks in SQLite bridge. Insert returned correct URI. What is insert URI? Form history URI. What is CR dot insert? What is any of this? CR. Let's see what this thing was originally designed to do. If we look at when this test was introduced. Test for form history and password providers back in 2012. Need to rewrite the form sync engine. So for sync, patch, form history provider. I wonder if that's it. Maybe it's not the The test, it's maybe the form history provider is not working properly because I changed how part of the interface works or something. History authority. Delete columns. Does it at all interact with formhistory.jsm? No, not really. It completely... formhistory.net. Well, maybe it does now. Like, what is this thing? Gecko provider. Android base DB. Gecko provider. How about formhistory.jsm? Is there anything under mobile? Form assistant and sanitizer. That's not really what I thought we'd need. Satchel. Mobile, Android. Where was the old stuff? It was in base and then DB. Base. There's no DB anymore. And this thing was called what? Gecko provider. What if I look up just form history under Android? Aha! Form history provider. Form history record, form history sync stage, browser contract. That's interesting. Maybe I violated the contract somehow. Form history. This looks like a just access to the SQLite database. That's deleted columns. Form history provider. How does any of this work? I don't know what I'm looking at here. And then we send this message, form history init. And what does that do? Over here, we say form history, force creation upgrade of form history.sqlite. Uh-oh, have I like screwed us by making that asynchronous? Form history init. Global on out initialize the format. Dispatch form history init and init gecko. I'm really worried now that I may have screwed us. Gecko service. The wrong schema set initialization call the gecko will handle building the database file correctly as well as migrations that are necessary. This is for the SQLite bridge. Oh no. Oh no, does this assume that this is going to be synchronous? Return bridge. Open database. return bridge, get DB. And then the test is called test form history. .java, and then we insert, well, what if by the time we call into test form history, when this is a bridge, get DB, what calls SQLite bridge get DB? SQLite bridge, SQLite bridge. Get DB, SQLite bridge, get database for profile. Database. Get activity, get content resolver, content values. Block for gecko ready. That sounds interesting. I'm just kind of fumbling around. So just stand by. Block for gecko ready. Exceptions, gecko ready. Event equals gecko ready, send request. Init later, init later. Force. By calling form history init, does it expect that to be synchronous? Form history provider, when something calls init gecko. Form history provider is an SQLite bridge content provider. And init gecko is called from gecko service, handle intent. Also here, if DB needs setup is true. Okay. And return the bridge. So anytime we something call, and it extends content provider, I understand. So anytime in here we call get DB, which will probably occur, get DB, or it probably actually occurs in the subclass. Anytime something is like, hey, give me the database, then the first thing we do is we attempt to synchronously init gecko. And then we block. Init gecko. So maybe this needs to just like, we block for gecko already, get content resolver, and that's what an SQLite thing is, right? It's a content provider. Content provider. Values, content values. Form history URI. Content URI. Block for gecko ready. And again, how does that work? Because maybe we can block for Block for delayed startup. Maybe we can block for form history ready. So over here, we call form history init, and then in the JavaScript layer, form history init, we can do this, and then once that resolves, fire some message back, send an event that says init is done. Do we have an example where that occurs? I think like the delayed startup stuff, right? Then we like send request with the global event dispatcher. We notify Java that Gecko is loaded. We use a global event dispatcher. We say Gecko ready. So what I'm thinking is maybe we should send a form history init and then form history init or form history ready after this has resolved. And that might fix that one part of that one test. That's my new theory. Then over here, that's for one thing. Let me write that down. For the Android failure with the null pointer exception, my theory is that this code assumes that database setup is synchronous, and that was form history init, form history init. Where is it? Form history fire. Let me find another example. Like, is this supposed to be synchronous? Is that how you clicked? Is that how that works? Media player, no reply. Dispatch during a reply, and then you send a response. Passwords init. I feel like this is passwords init. Initialize. And that's all done. Broadcast receiver. Action init passwords. Receive init Gecko. I have no idea if it's synchronous. The event dispatcher. Dispatch. Event dispatcher. Dispatch. Non-Gecko thread listeners to any registered bundle listener. Optional object for callbacks from events. Does it say anything about sync? For other threads, we always dispatch asynchronously. However, for Gecko listeners, we dispatch synchronously if we're already on the Gecko thread. So it sounds like it's possible that it's synchronous. Whew, it's tricky. 2H Strike says in the Twitch chat, hey, this was like 20 minutes ago. Hey, have you heard about Temple OS? Yes, I have. Yes, I have heard of Temple OS. Thank you for the question, 2H Strike. Yes, I have. Let's see. So what we could do, maybe we could modify the test so that it waits for a form history ready event before continuing. So that's one idea. Test the, I don't even know how I would test that. Glabao says, hey, I'm Conley, chat some hype? Some hype? What? I don't understand. So I feel like I've become one of those people who's old now, and I don't understand what you're all talking about. Your newfangled some hype. I don't get it. Chat some hype? I don't know what you mean. I'm trying to make sense of it. I don't know. Maybe it's a typo. I will attempt to chat some hype though. Test the form history ready idea. This is going to be tricky since I don't really have an Android development environment set up. So it might be like write and push to automation, and that might super suck. All right, that's one thing. And then the second thing is there was this other failure where there are these things that should be deleted from the form history database that aren't, and I think the logcat emulator is what I want to use. And the test failure is in this test called test ext browsing data form data. Here it is. And so here's where we're starting the test. So if we open the test up, actually, that will help illustrate. So the first thing we do is there's all these other functions that don't do anything right away. And then this one does. We set up the form history. That gets called right here. This is the first thing that happens is we run this function, test form data, because it's inside an add task. And that's how you tell the test infrastructure what it should actually be running. And the first thing it does is it creates this function called test removal method that's async, and then it calls it passing remove form data. And the first thing it does is it tries to set up the form history. And the first thing set up form history does after defining a bunch of stuff is attempts to run a bunch of operations on the DB to clean it out. So first, it like removes everything from the database using an op remove with no other attributes. So it should attempt to clean out everything. And then that's true. So it's like remove all entries. And then after that, it attempts to add these things to the database. And so first thing it does is delete from Moz history. And that should just clear out the database. And then insert into Moz history. Reference with that, times used, first used, last used. And then insert this other one 10 seconds ago, 10 minutes ago. Done running that query, committing the transaction. And so I'm pretty sure that means that it's in the database at that point. Committing transaction. No, not form history. Startup form history.jsm, but I'm actually having the wrong section of the code. Good, this built. Gonna switch back for a second for the thing that I just built, and I want to make sure that it actually fixes the bug that I was talking about earlier. So here we are with a tab. Here's another tab. I'm going to activate TabWarming, Warm up is enabled. And before the patch, opening this would result in the perma spinner, and now it doesn't. So that's good. That's what we wanted. We want fast tab switching all the time. So we're going to land this. So I think I can just go ahead and auto land. So I'm going to publish changes and then auto land. How did I think my try push was green. There were a couple of like failures here, but they were all like intermittent failures, known intermittents. So I think we can go ahead and land this. Just gonna do it. Land. Oh yeah. I normally just jam my tablet whenever I do something like that, but I have no sounds today. So let's go back to our log, because we were in the middle of something. So we insert that reference, we insert 10 seconds ago, we insert 10 minutes ago, we commit the transaction, and then let's use the code that I pushed to try so that we're in sync here. In sync, like the band. What was their hit? In Sync's hit? It was like bye bye bye. I think I'm losing my mind. I'm getting tired, people. All right. Committing, yeah, form history, committing transaction. If we're here, then it should have really been committed transaction. Done running that query, we insert, we commit the transaction, and we're done. And then we want to update one of these things, IA S16 UZL. We're updating that to have a different first used. Our existing GUID. What is existing GUID? Oh, GUID. Yeah, okay, so it's bound. Yeah, where GUID equals existing GUID, that. So it updates first used, then it writes it. Update. We're updating all these first used things, and I think that's on purpose. If you look back at the test, it attempts to update them here 10 minutes ago. What was the 10 minutes ago one? It was like the GUID was blah, 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 plus PP. And that's this one. We update the first used. And then we're done. And then we check for all of these things. And pass, pass, pass. That's these things. Check, check, check. So setup form history operates correctly. And then we send this message with the method remove form data. And so that's where things are going wrong. Checking if form data can clear. It's checking if form data can clear. It got a count of 3 entries, and that makes sense. There are supposed to be 3 things in the database. Reference 10 seconds ago and 10 minutes ago. And it's clearing form data from start time null. And so we're moving from form history, moving to deleted table, first you start. So we should be, aha, so that's the problem, is that the query runs here to delete from the database, and then we do a check before the query had completed and before the transaction was committed. So for some reason we get form data removed. Add listener. We get a message when form data is removed. So what we call browsing data remove form data in this test, and that's the first one that we're testing. Browsing data remove form data. Remove form data calls do removal and returns the result of do removal. Do removal returns all of the promises that get pushed into removal promises, and form data is the one that we care about. Data to remove. Form data push clear form data. We return sanitizer clear item form data. Since so sanitizer clear item, so sanitizer.jsm, this is what Android uses. I thought we had cleared this up where form data, we're clearing, like, so this is how I'd modified it. Sanitizer.jsm form data, it should be returning a promise that resolves after the removal on completion here. New promise, resolve. And yet, when we look at the evidence, it looks like we proceed before. Oh wait, it looks like there are two sanitizer calls here. I wonder if that's the problem. Like Android sanitizer. Oh, I wonder if these are just duplicates, because like I've got Gecko dump and Gecko console. And I have a feeling, which one can I trust? Android sanitizer completed. Dump completed. These proceed before the Android sanitizer promise resolved. Why is that? Clear. Return item dot clear. Item in this case is for data dot clear. What is this? Okay, that's just some fancy destructuring, which returns a promise. I guess I need to add if yield new promise. That is the API. Call update, and then you can pass in this thing. Form data clear. So for some reason, so we send message. I'm going to add some more logging. Test is sending message to clear form data with method, and then waiting for form data removed message from web extension. Dump received form data removed message from web extension. And up here, dump web extension is using browsing data.remove form data is awaiting on that. Dump web extension is done, or browser.browsing data.remove form data has finished. Might as well do one down here on browser and just remove dump browser.browsing data.remove has finished, and then sending form data removed back to test. And then browsing data was the function. It's ext browsing data. Ext browsing data. Remove web extension API for removing form data called do removal. Pushing form data removal promise. Let's see here. Then dump form data removal promise has apparently resolved. And then clear form data dump asking sanitizer to clear form data for since options.since, and then sanitizer.jsm uses its can clear. Dump sanitizer for form data returning promise. Dump constructing promise, promise constructed. Promise constructor exited. Resolving sanitizer promise. That should be enough logging, I think. Hopefully I didn't screw any of that up. So let's, oh no, wait. Yeah, that's what I wanted, right? Wait, is that what I wanted? Yes, it is. And we're gonna push that to try with the same stuff, the same try syntax. Okay, so that's in there. Now for this forum history stuff, I'm the other bug. I'm going to ask a Fennec expert, or at least I'm going to try. Let's see if I can find one. Join the mobile IRC channel. See if anyone here. Who's got some time for me? Who's recently touched like forum history provider? That's what I'd look at. Jim Chen. Smurfd asks, hey, you were touching a subject I'd like to follow up on. Async calls versus sync calls. It's basically just that async calls call handles if the function is called from several threads and manages the callbacks, right? Well, maybe. Like, so what we're talking about here, synchronous versus asynchronous, sometimes has to do with threads, sometimes it doesn't. Let me see if I can answer here in my notepad. I'll put it here in the agenda. So synchronous versus asynchronous. I'll put a, maybe what I'll do is I'll put it, where should I put it? Notes. So synchronous versus asynchronous. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Synchronous versus asynchronous. Smurfd asks, this is the question that Smurfd just asked in IRC. Nope. There. So asynchronous means generally when you call a function, like a very simple function, if I do function add 2, and then it takes a number, num, and then I return num plus 2. This is returning a result immediately, and that's one, like synchronous is another way of saying immediately. Synchronous immediately. This function returns a result immediately. Sometimes a function doesn't or can't return a result immediately. Sometimes that's because we have to wait for a thread to do some work, like so you brought up threads, and sometimes that's the reason. Other times it's because we're not waiting for something on a different thread, but we're waiting for something else to occur, for maybe a timer to fire. So here's a function add 2 in 1 sec. So what it will do is it will take a callback where after 1,000 milliseconds, it will call the callback with num plus 2. So when you call that one, like if I were to call this first function, I'd say like let x equal add 2, 2, and then if I dumped x, x would equal 4. And over here, if I did the same thing, let x equal add 2 in 1 sec, and I pass it 2, and then my callback, well, let's say I don't pass a callback. What if I keep the callback null? I think that would eventually throw an error in the console, but like the X value would be, I'm pretty sure, undefined. And that's because there's no return value. This function is not returning anything, but it is eventually calling this callback after a second. And timers, I think there is actually some threading going on with timers, but they don't have to be, it doesn't have to mean threads. It just means later. Asynchronous means later, whereas synchronous means immediately. So instead, whenever you call this function, you go like let, I don't know, you do add 2 in 1 sec, and then you pass it a function, or pass it your number, and then you'll get like a result. You can pass that to an arrow function, and then you can dump your result, and that should dump 4 after 1 second. Has elapsed. You can, I think this should be more or less valid. You could probably, I like dump might not be the right thing. How about just like console log, use that. That should be valid JavaScript. You throw that into a scratch pad or your console or something. Now what I'm doing is I'm using these these new ES6, I think is when they were introduced, async functions, where you can await promises. So promises are these constructs like let p equals new promise, kind of like this. A promise is kind of constructed like this, but the way it works is you construct a promise that takes a single function, and that function, like in its constructor, and that function does some stuff. Does stuff asynchronously, or probably asynchronously. And eventually, resolve is called whenever that work's done. So for example, we could make this promise resolve after 5 seconds. So that whenever I do this, p.then console.log done. If I were to do that, then after 5 seconds, done would be logged to the console. This is how one used to chain promises together. You can still chain promises together, but async and await kind of make this a little more readable, a little more linear. You do it like this. If you have an async function, you can just await p. So if I were to construct this promise like this down here, or if it was in scope, I could just await it until it's resolved, and then instead of doing this up here, so this is like option 1. Option 2 is await p, and then do console.log done. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I conceive of like synchronous versus asynchronous. It's like synchronous is immediately, you get a result back from a function immediately. It's like we execute some machine instructions and we have our answer and we move on. These are also known as like blocking, because the function, until the function completes its job, nothing in the thread will proceed. Whereas asynchronous means the work is, at least some of the work is deferred, and eventually the work completes, hopefully. And sometimes that means a thread's been used. Other times it doesn't. Sometimes it just means something's been deferred till later, and we're not using threads necessarily, but maybe we're using like an event queue, and we just like put in the processing of work later in the queue or something. That makes sense. So thanks for a very good and long answer. Sorry that was a long answer. Yeah, a little long-winded. Sorry, we went down the garden path there. But we got our try push out. We can see what's going on there. That's cooking. That'll take a couple of minutes. This has been going for 7 minutes. These builds don't usually take that long, though. This finished in 7 minutes, this old one, so this one should almost be done. Oh yeah, this one is done. So the test should begin soon, and then hopefully I'll have more data. But I think by the time this episode's done, I think it's going to be too long before we know anything. But if you're curious, follow along in the bug, which is this forum history bug. But in the meantime, the last thing I want to do is I want to see if I can track someone down from the Fennec team I can ask about this database setup synchronous stuff. So, where are we? Forum history. Forum history provider. Yeah, Jim Chen. Is Jim Chen online? Jim Chen modified it in March. That was a little while ago. Let's see. I'm gonna ping Jim Chen. See if anything comes back there. I'm gonna give Jim Chen 30 seconds to get back to me. And if not, I think I'm gonna cap the episode there because like my throat is starting to get wacky and I'm getting tired. Like I had mentioned earlier, live hacking is, I don't know, it's like a muscle. And if you don't work it for a while, eventually you get tired. Your stamina goes down. Okay, that was about 30 seconds. I'm going to call it there. Hey, thanks so much for watching episode 125 of The Joy of Coding. I hope if you were watching this on YouTube that the audio was synced up. I'm going to be investigating that. And if you were just watching this in general, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Is there anything I want to bring up before? I think I wanted at some point to do a shout out and I never did it. I think I wanted to shout out to someone. I was supposed to like give a shout out. And why didn't I? This is like a while back. I was supposed to do a shout out. Who was I supposed to do a shout out to? I think I forgot. I must not have written it down. Shoot. So sorry. I failed. If I said I'd give you a shout out and I haven't, I'm sorry. Here's a shout out to everybody. Here's a shout out to Smurf D, who talked to me in the Hash Live Hacking channel and asked questions. Asked a good question. So keep the questions coming. All right. I think I'm going to call it. I think I will be back next week. Yes, I will be working next week. So we can try. We'll see where we are. We'll see where we are next week. Maybe TabWarming will be enabled. Maybe not. We'll see. We're getting close to the uplift, and it may be a little risky. So we'll see. Take care, everybody. I hope you had a good episode, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. And I don't have any music for you, so this is I'll just do it. The joy of coding. It'll do. See ya.